The B golf principles. We talked before that golf is complex, so we're going to need some rules and some principles, things that are true to keep going back to help you navigate the complexity and the difficulty of the learning process. So we'd like to talk to you about our B golf principles and how we're going to use them moving forward. So what is the first and most important principle of ours?
First one, have to be free. So we talk about the free swinging motion all the time. So a lot of what we're talking about with this be free is, can you make swings out on the golf course where you're not trying to hit it? You're not trying to steer, guide the golf club. Can you get yourself to make free swings where you're completely detached from the result? So that is priority number one when you're out on the golf course.
So the free swinging motion, then, and also being free internally, we're not so wound up with constraints and red tape and rules and don't do this and don't do that. People who play that way don't effectively play well, and then they wonder why. So ultimately, principle number one, be free. Got it. Number two, so once we get people freed up and they don't have all the jargon and the rules and all the stuff to go by, then where do we have them go?
You're going to have to be process focused. Right?
Yes.
So a lot of times what people are focused on when they play golf, they're more focused on the result, the score. When you're process focused, you're actually focused on things that are under your control, not out of your control. So we're very, very big into making sure that you guys are process focused with your training, not outcome focused.
Very good. So anything that we've put in B golf is, and we're asking you to do, be clear on what to do, is under your control and it matters.
Yep.
And it matters. So like Ben had talked about the score and the outcome, it's not under your control. The score matters, but it's not under your control. So we're gonna make sure that everything we talk about intersects at the fine line between things you can control and things that matter. We call that be process focused, yeah?
You got it.
All right, very good. Next principle, what's next?
Be committed. You can go a bunch of different ways with be committed, right? So when we're talking about being committed, be committed to your training plan. Be committed to the decisions you make out on the golf course. Be committed to your intention through the motion while being detached from the result. So there's a lot that we can talk about with this whole be committed phase, but it is one of the more important pieces of your golf training. And also it's very important when it comes to scoring out on the golf course, because if you're not committed to decisions and you're not committed to your intentions, good luck shooting low scores. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, so committed to your training. It's a long-term process. Commit to improvement. So improvement does not happen without that commitment piece. And then good golf shots don't happen without committing your attention to one thing. Very good. Okay, so now that we're committed, we're process focused, we're swinging freely, then what's the next most important principle?
You must be coachable.
Yes.
That's a tough one. Can't tell you how many times people will come into B golf and they're not necessarily coachable. So what we mean by that is they're not willing to let go of the baggage that they brought to the party. They're not willing to let go of these ideas that they've had. They're not willing to commit to something new, and they're not engaged in what we're trying to get them to do. So being coachable is a very important part of the improvement process. When we look at some of the most coachable athletes of all time, there's great pictures of guys like Michael Jordan and Tom Brady. When you look at those guys, you can see eye contact. They're thirsty for information, and then they take that information and they run with it to get themselves better.
Yeah, so part of being coachable is being able to use the ball as the teacher.
Yeah.
The objectivity of the ball and learning to interact with that versus folks trying to avoid errors or have everything try to be perfect, which just is never going to happen.
Nope.
So coachable people use the ball as a teacher and get coaching and take the feedback to help themselves improve.
Yes.
So after be coachable, then what's our next most important principle?
Next one is be skillful. So we've talked about this one a lot in the past already, right? So being skillful, making sure that you're developing your divot skill, center face skill, club face, club path, landing spot, start line, speed control. So golf is a game of skills.
Yes.
So learn to become skillful.
So we tell the kids the skills pay the bills.
That is true.
So it's not about a perfect swing or technique. It's about being skillful with what you're trying to do with the ball. Yes?
Most definitely.
All right, very good. So next, what's our next most important principle?
You must be adaptable. So remember, when you're playing golf, there's not two swings that are going to be the same when you're out there. You're constantly having to adapt to the environment that you're presented with. That's why we're very, very big into not just grooving one swing. The golf course doesn't demand one swing. It demands a whole bunch of different swings.
Yes.
So you have to be able to adapt to the environment when you're out on the golf course.
Very good. So that's why we'll talk about it later in our book, but just the idea of being consistent and being the same all the time and getting the same result, same swing is not a good idea for a golf course that forces you to adapt.
That is true.
Different way to think about that is if you're shooting 95 and you'd like not to be shooting 95, you want to shoot 85 or whatever, something's got to change. You're going to have to adapt.
That is
So
true.
be adaptable is very, very important to us. All right, what's next?
You must be self-aware. Self-awareness is key to improvement. When we talk about the self-awareness process, we're referring a lot to the procedure that you're trying to walk yourself through. So are you aware of your thoughts behind the ball? Are they productive or are they destructive? Are you aware of what's going on when you're standing over the ball? Do you have a checklist that you're filled with, or are you silent? Are you aware of how many different thoughts you have racing through your mind when you're swinging the golf club? It's shocking to us how many people lack the self-awareness skill, and if you lack self-awareness, it's going to be very, very difficult to improve. So self-awareness is key when it comes to the improvement process.
For the whole thing.
Yeah.
For the whole thing.
shebang.
Yeah, so getting better at golf, you're going to have to learn the rules to associate. Different way to think about this is when I do this, I get that. So when I do this with the club, I get a straighter ball. When I do this with the club, I get a slice.
Yep.
Right? So that self-awareness is understanding how your thoughts, beliefs, and actions influence your outcomes or performance.
That is true.
Okay.
That is true.
Next principle.
Next principle, be yourself. This one is important. We think that a lot of players, when it comes to the game of golf, they're constantly trying to copy other people. You have to find out what works for you. We all think differently. We're all wired differently. Our body types are all different. You have to learn your way, not somebody else's way. And through the Be Golf process, that's what we're very, very big into. We're going to coach you into finding your way to be successful. But don't always try to copy other people, because their way might not work for you.
Yeah, so everybody lives from their own perspective. So it's important that you honor your perspective, and we're going to talk more about it as we go. We'll introduce continuum, how much or how little, a slight, moderate, severe continuum we talked about, or previously we talked about the who, what, why, how model.
Yep.
So the who, understanding that people live from their own perspective, it is very, very important that you be yourself, and like you had said, not trying to copy other people's way, because that ain't your way.
Yep, you got it.
All right, very good. Next principle.
Be accountable. So you must hold yourself accountable when it comes to getting better at golf. Are you doing what you say you're going to do, right? You told us that you're going to train 3 days a week. Are you actually doing those things? When it comes to the procedure, are you holding yourself accountable after each and every swing? Did I do my job behind the ball? Did I do my job over the ball? Did I do my job during the swing? So there's so many different things when it comes to this game that you have to hold yourself accountable to if you're looking to get better.
Yeah, so people, accountability could be said as the breakfast of champions, yeah?
Yeah.
So people who hold themselves accountable and do the work get better. If you don't do it, you won't get better. So that's, I don't want to say it's that simple, but
It is pretty simple.
All right, so that principle is important to us, be accountable. And then lastly, our final 10 principles here.
Be objective. So a lot of golfers, when they're out there playing, they are not objective. They'll hit maybe a shot where they get an undesired result, and they'll start saying words like, I suck, I can't believe I'm so bad at this game, oh, I'm terrible, blah, blah. The list goes on, as opposed to just stating the radical truth about the outcome. Well, what did that ball do? It started to the right, and it curved to the right into the bunker.
Right.
That's staying objective. So when you're staying objective to feedback, you're not destroying your confidence along the way, because we both know that the guy that's most confident is the guy that's usually going to win, right? So be objective when it comes to your results, and don't let it destroy your confidence.
So when you're objective, you can ultimately use the ball as a teacher and use that feedback to make appropriate adjustments.
Yep.
Like you talked about people saying they suck or their swing's no good, that's not productive.
No.
And they're not actually working with the feedback, they're working against it, right?
Yep.
Very good. So we're going to use these principles throughout the performance improvement process, throughout your journey. And if you ever get stuck, we're going to ask you to go back to the principles, because they're going to be true if you're trying to break 100. They're going to be true if you're trying to break 90. They're going to be true if you're just trying to have fun at the company outing, if you will. So whatever level of golf you find yourself, these principles are going to be at play no matter what we're doing, whether it's chipping or driving, what have you.
That's very true. That's one of the things that we always take great pride in at Be Golf, is we want you guys to be your own best coaches, whether it comes to training or playing, and these guiding principles will always reel you back to where you need to be. So if you're ever stuck, make sure you start with referring back to these guiding principles.
It's kind of like having a compass and a map and a rope if you were in the forest, right?
Yep.
You would need some tools, some places to help you guide your way through that.
Yep.
So what we've learned is the learning and performance improvement process. It's not a linear straight line, everything goes perfect process. You get in the weeds, you get in the woods, you're going to need some principles to come back to. So these would be like a sound chili recipe, the ingredients that go into making up your best chili or your best golf game. Okay, so we hope this helps you. We're going to use these principles moving forward, and you'll see how this all intertwines with our performance improvement process and progression and philosophy. So keep it up. We'll look forward to seeing you soon.